So, as you've all heard by now, if certainly if you're watching recorded, but even if you're watching live, Iran has attacked Israel once again. This time, unlike the previous Iranian attack, it wasn't with the slowest rockets and drones that they had. It was with ballistic missiles. Uh, no doubt, the Israeli response to the previous Iranian attack back in April emboldened Iran and their desire to attack Israel. Remember, the Iranian regime has wanted to get rid of Israel since it got to power in 1979 and has only attacked Israel directly twice, both of those times in the past 6 months. Yeah, again, these are ballistic missile attacks. So unlike the homebrew uh, stuff that Iranian proxies like Hezbollah shoot at Israel some of the time, not all of the time. These are precise. They're serious weapons. They're massive, and they can cause a lot of damage. Unlike the previous attack, some of these have actually landed, and there aren't reports of many serious injuries. There's a few light injuries. One person is dead, a Palestinian from Gaza working in Jericho, because they're precise, but they hit in different places. I don't know if this was the intention. I don't know if it's just because they're not that precise, but that is a part of the result. There was also a terrorist attack in Israel in Jaffa where 7 people were murdered. So yeah, the terrorists have not been defeated as much as we are properly celebrating the past couple of weeks of Israel being stronger than it has been previously. Clearly not strong enough. On the other hand, this is a massive opportunity, and hopefully Israel will not do what it did last time Iran attacked, which is Biden called Netanyahu, said take the win. Netanyahu did nothing for a week and then did some small attack in Iran. Hopefully, this time they won't wait. Hopefully tonight, Tehran will not sleep, and yeah, let's hope that this is the beginning of the end, if not the end of the end, of the Iranian regime. Welcome to this special episode of the Daily Objective. I'm joined by Daniel and James Valiant. I'm gonna have to go in a few minutes because that plane behind there is waiting for me, but not actually waiting for me. It's just not taken off yet. James, your
It
thoughts
ought to
on?
wait for you. It ought
Yeah,
to wait for you. Mr. Ginsburg has an important podcast to do, and so everything must wait. Yes, twice the number of precision ballistic missiles as were fired against Israel this time than in April. Twice the number. And they used one of the Fatah 4 hypersonic missiles, I understand. At least Iran is claiming that they used one of these new hypersonic missiles. Fortunately, I mean, given the fact that it's over 180 precision missiles were launched against Israel by Iran, it is fortunate that there's only a few craters, some injuries, and one dead Palestinian, but it's all, as I say every time, that's even a Palestinian, too many. That's too many injuries. That's too many craters. We're what? Depending upon the precision of Israeli defense to call it a win, to say that this is some kind of victory? No. Fortunately, Israel has come out with a strong statement saying that Iran will feel it harder this time. They ought to. Even in DC, policymakers were saying that this was a significant escalation on the part of Iran. President Biden said this is like the direct quote, he is fully supportive of Israel's right to defend itself. Now I'm going to call BS on that. If America were really fully supportive of Israel's right to defend itself, we knew this was coming more than 24 hours ago, not because of already Iranian warnings, but because intelligence was showing the movement of missiles into position to attack Israel. We know where the Iranian missiles are. If we supported Israel in its self-defense against Iran, we'd be striking at those missile positions right now in Iran. We would be taking out Iran's nuclear facilities right now. We would be hitting leadership targets in Tehran right now. This is the moment. This is Iran is finally getting back on its heels. All of this has fallen on Israel with no thankless task, with America saying, stop after the pager attack. Well, ceasefire now is what Biden was saying. Yeah, and he said, take the win back in April. Well, this is the result of the take the win philosophy. No, you've got to take it to Iran, and America should be there to help take it to Iran.
Yeah. Yesterday, when there were reports of Israel about to invade Lebanon, with reports, by the way, which came from the U.S. The U.S. was annoyed by not being notified about previous attacks. They were notified about this one, and they notified the world, including the enemy. And Biden was asked, "Are you comfortable with this limited invasion?" And he said, "I'm comfortable with them stopping. There should be a ceasefire now." So, yeah, Biden speaking in strong terms against this Iranian attack. I bought into Biden's strong rhetoric after October 7th, and we saw what that strong rhetoric was about. It was about condemning the attack without supporting any sort of retaliation, any sort of action that would prevent future attacks. No, Israel needs to ignore Biden completely and just go this alone, and go it alone now. Any moment, Iran did this preparing for some sort of retaliation, and any moment that passes, they have more time to prepare for some sort of retaliation. The retaliation needs to be a major game changer. It needs to make the Middle East not what it has been until today, not what the U.S., by the way, has allowed it to become, and so has Israel. And yeah, this Iran has been Netanyahu's issue for decades. Now is the time. Now is the time to end the Iranian regime tonight.
Tonight, now, immediately, they should be getting the planes in motion right now. And as I say, I really wish my own country would back Israel, because to really fully do it, I think take out Iran's government. America should be there. America, look, it's American interests. It's international shipping. And what is America's position? Well, this time there's no Americans who've been killed. Well, okay, so we're going to wait for more Americans to actually die. Or, hey, look at how successful we helped. Look, America is boasting right now that it sent off 12 interceptors. We don't know if they had any impact yet. We're waiting for the assessment. But America did send off 12 interceptors to help Israel. Oh, and see how effective it was? And since no Israelis were killed, America has not, yawned. Okay, so we wait for people to die. So not until American soldiers or Israeli civilians get killed does America think it's worth doing anything. So Iran can attack in April. Iran can attack with twice as many ballistic missiles today. And America's saying, well, really, we don't want to get involved in any of that. But the other side is, at least today, it looks like America will be dragged along and say, okay, we do approve of some action in Lebanon. Okay, we understand Israel will take some action against Iran. We're in coordination. In other words, that sounds to me like they will be led by Israel. Israel has to take the lead. Israel's doing this alone, but at least it sounds like America won't, for the moment, and I don't know how short these moments last, for the moment, America won't be complaining if Israel does something, continues to do action in Lebanon, or does something against Iran.
Yeah, well, America might not be complaining if Israel does something that's proportionate. It is absolutely going to complain if Israel does what needs to be done, which is, again, to bring peace to the Middle East, you need to remove the Iranian regime. There is no possibility for peace. I know these people like to talk about peace. There will never be a peace in the Middle East unless, as long as the Iranian regime exists, and that needs to be the game changer at this point. Now, again, it's not just with Iran directly. It's with we don't know the terrorists the two terrorists who committed the terrorist attack today in Jaffa. If they were, sent by Iran, we don't know. We don't know who they are yet. But we know that these people are emboldened. Any terrorist in the Middle East is emboldened by Iran and that regime. So, yeah, let's really hope that that the time for talking is over. It is over. but let's hope that Netanyahu realizes this and
Well, look at how
that
targeted
he's been telling us. Yeah,
Even Israel's attacks in Lebanon are super targeted. And look at the way Iran and Hezbollah attack. They're destroying homes, they're aiming for buildings, they're trying to kill kids. And look at the way the terrorists themselves, I mean, the Jaffa terrorist attack, related or unrelated, look at what they do. They go for they'll shoot up a rail station, they'll kill as many as they can, kill several, and then wound a couple dozen more. And how much more of this do we have to put up with? No, the Iranian regime must be taken out completely. Certainly, their capacity to make a nuclear bomb must be eliminated now. And if after two ballistic missile attacks directly on Israel, the world does not see the immediate urgency of taking out Iran and its nuclear program, I'm not sure what possibly
yeah,
could.
and we were. You mentioned the fact that the U.S. intercepted some of these missiles, which is great. It's great to have missile defense systems, but it's not sufficient. And we also have seen videos of multiple missiles landing. And by the way, one of them landed on a school. I don't know if we're going to hear in mainstream media now Iran is bombing schools and hospitals. I don't think anything landed in a hospital. But yeah, I'm gonna think this is gonna be reported differently from when Israel defends itself. Yeah, this is again,
No, I
we're
want
gonna
to.
keep I just have to just one last point because I do have to go,
Okay.
but we will have shows on this if necessary multiple times a day. As much as necessary. I'm gonna try to join the Daily Objective tomorrow from my phone like this. I'm sure this is a great look, but yeah, it's important. Look, people who have been following this channel know that this is where you can get um, daily rational commentary on this war, and hopefully soon, if Israel does the right thing, you can get daily rational commentary on other stuff because the war will have been won. Let's hope for that. Yeah, James, I'm leaving you in the capable hands of Daniel. I will try to join from the chat, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Yes. Well, I was just about to say that really what needs to happen is Western media. We need to see in the BBC and the Guardian the big pictures of the craters that were created by these powerful Iranian missiles actually landing in Israel. Now, I know that they prioritize the ones that are probably going to hit population areas, the more densely populated areas. And so these are just craters because everyone ran to a bomb shelter, at which poor Israelis have to live under the constant threat of having to run to bomb shelters. 70,000 have been displaced in northern Israel just from the Hezbollah attacks. But I hope the Western media does feature the giant craters created from this aggressive Iranian attack on Israel. In Israel, we're shown all the rubble in Gaza, aren't we? Well, I expect equal treatment, Guardian, BBC, the usual suspects. I expect equal treatment for the craters that Iran has created around Tel Aviv. And throughout, by the way, when you look at the map of where Iranian missiles were targeted, it was throughout Israel and the West Bank, by the way. The whole of the West Bank, the whole of Israel, straight from the Lebanese border all the way down to south of the Dead Sea, missiles were being fired. People in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv had to run into bomb shelters today. If a nation is truly committed to its own defense, and all nations of the world, if you are supportive of that nation's commitment to self-defense, then you will obviously support the taking out of the government of Iran right now by Israel, if Israel has the capacity to do that. We should all be on board. Every civilized nation of the world should be on board with the absolute destruction of Iran's capacity to make nuclear weapons. After several attacks on international shipping, on American troops in the region, but now two strikes with dozens and dozens of high-powered ballistic missiles from Iran, to permit them to get a nuclear weapon would obviously be a catastrophe for all of civilization. No civilized country can sit idly by after this has happened and permit Iran to get a nuclear weapon. Full stop.
Well, when it comes to news, it's always sensational. It's always the latest, biggest, most interesting thing that has happened. And very fortunately, I should rather say, when it comes to Israel for the second time getting rocketed by Iran, that's why I switched to fortunate. On It's still sad. One person got killed in each of those attacks, as well as few people have been injured in both of these. Uh, it's fortunate that the casualties are not in much higher numbers, of course, but what it means as you know, if you compare it to, for example, October 7th, is uh, if people don't die, then people don't care, and that's the terrible situation that we are in. uh During when the last April attack happened, it was take a win. You know, you've defended yourself, be glad, be okay with it. If with this attack, it's while there were reports from the Biden-Harris administration before the attack saying if it happens there will be consequences, and even now it seems that they still stand behind Israel. I think it was Sullivan who said there will be severe consequences for this attack. What does it mean? Will you stop giving money to Iran, for example? Maybe that would be the severe consequences.
You know,
Mm.
Daniel, that between 2020 and 2023, oil revenue between, China for over 10 years, about 15 years now, has been the biggest purchaser of Iranian oil. They've been buying tens and tens of billions of dollars worth of oil from Iran. But between 2020 and 2023, oil shipments and trade tripled under the Biden-Harris administration, permitting that kind of enrichment of the Iranian regime. That is tens of billions of dollars. Forget the stuff where we've released the money and they make the excuse about how it's only used for, food or humanitarian purposes. Forget that money. We've been allowing them to enrich themselves billions and billions and billions with trade with China because we've looked the other way with sanctions against Iran. Those sanctions by the Biden administration, which has been appeasing Iran and seeking to reestablish that nuclear deal, which has done nothing to stop Iran from getting a nuclear bomb. Now, that kind of ass kissing appeasement is exactly what created October 7th. In my view, Biden-Harris administration already is responsible to some degree for what happened on October 7th. No, they did not perpetrate the atrocities themselves, nor imagine the extent of the atrocities, but they empowered, enriched, and emboldened the most aggressive terrorist state in the world, in my view, Iran, and their proxies, who were allowed to be funded, trained, and sent military hardware. Yeah, it's cruder homemade RPGs that Hamas gets, and their closer affiliate Hezbollah gets the more high-powered missiles. But that tells us why Israel has to go into Lebanon. I'm glad they're finally going into Lebanon, but that's why it has to happen. Hezbollah has to be taken out thoroughly, just like their leadership has. The boots on the ground have to be taken out too. Otherwise, Iran still has a powerful gun aimed straight at Israel. And this is intolerable, obviously, ladies and gentlemen. If anything of the last year has shown us is that Israel has to take it directly to Iran. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And thank goodness Israel is saying something at least will happen directly in Iran. It must. It must. Otherwise, there's absolutely no credible deterrent whatever. We're saying, as I said earlier in the shows, so long as we block the punches mostly successfully, we're never going to hit them ourselves with the punch in the face. They need to get punched. It is long overdue that the mullahs in Iran get punched square in the face rather than us just simply blocking the blows as best we can.
Uh, some pro-Iranian guy is asking in the chat, when was the last time Iran invaded the country? So they've attacked Israel about 4 hours ago. So there you go.
October 7th. Hamas is a toy and a proxy for Iran. They get all their money, all of their training, all of their weapons. October 7th was a direct attack, and you say indirect to the proxies. Well, I don't buy that, because Hezbollah, the real affiliates, the most powerful affiliates of Iran, started attacking on October 8th. They were celebrating October 7th in Tehran after they had made it financially and militarily possible in the first place. So the atrocities of October 7th are the fault of the Ayatollah and Iran. They're an aggressive dictatorship. Look at what they did in Yemen. They support the Houthis. That was another Iranian invasion. The most aggressive dictatorship in the region is Iran right now. They're invading. They took control over Lebanon, even though there are a bunch of moderates and Christians there who apparently didn't want that. But Hezbollah is there. The arm of Iran is there. So they're aggressively in Iraq, taking over as best they can, Syria as best they can, Lebanon as best they can. Through Hamas, they attacked on October 7th. Down in Yemen, they did. That was all Iranian aggression, my friend.
Yeah, Iran has been supporting different kinds of militias all over the place. So you mentioned about the sanctions. So when it comes to sanctions, particularly with Iran, I don't like sanctions. I think sanctions are an absolute ignoring, basically trying to ignore what is the reality. If there is a nation that is sort of worthy to have sanctions over, that country needs to be overthrown. If someone in your country wants to do a business with someone else in that other country, it's not for a state to care. But you'll say to them, yeah, we won't protect you. If you're trading with a dictatorship, we cannot guarantee any sort of security for your property. That's the only way. And when you mention the oil, it's our oil. It always has been. And by our, I mean, realistically, I mean Western individuals who spent the resources discovering the oil in different parts of the Middle East, made it profitable, made it in actual companies, and created the value. When the Iranians took over the oil fields, they didn't even have the expertise to operate those fields. They had to invite Western experts so they can work on the fields they have nationalized from individuals in the West. Everything of work that has been built in the Middle East has been built by mostly Western individuals. If you talk about Suez Canal, that has been built by I think I think it's French and something else, French American, French Anglo company.
The French and British operated it.
French British operated.
Exactly, precisely correct. You're absolutely right. And by the way, it was British and American oil interests. I mean, specifically in Iran, British oil interests were just appropriated, stolen back in the 1950s by the Shah, by the way. Now, Western interests looked the other way then, but you're right. There'd be no market for the oil. They don't have any industry to support with the oil, nor did they even know that there was a value to the oil that was under their feet, nor could they extract it from the ground.
Well, they knew there was, I heard it was a pretty good laxative. That was pretty much the only way the oil was used for before again, industrialization, and someone discovered a way to use that black smudge into something that can be actually useful.
And because we in the West don't dig the oil that we can, or go to nuclear, or have a decent energy policy of our own, a free market energy policy that embraces fossil fuels, for example, or embraces nuclear, for example, wholeheartedly against these green idiots, we make ourselves subject to enriching these primitive nations because they simply have some natural resource that we in the industrialized West need. To your point, though, about sanctions, you're absolutely right. If it gets, usually, I'm not going to say always, but in most cases, if you're going to the point of sanction, that means you're letting down, you're dropping the ball on what really needs to happen, taking out of the at least solving the problem you needed the sanctions for in the first place. We shouldn't be having diplomatic relationships with any dictatorship in the world. No civilized nation should even recognize legitimacy of them. Anyone who would trade with them in your own country would be doing it at their own risk. And if they become an aggressive dictatorship, then it's not a question. It normally would not be, in my mind, a question of sanctions, but of taking out the aggressive dictatorship, which is now a threat to every civilized, peaceful nation on earth. That's the nature of aggressive dictatorships, like Iran.
Yeah, and so just going back to the attack, so I have a bit more updated information. So when the attack happened, we did live coverage, and we heard anything from 100 ballistic missiles to 400 ballistic missiles, as well as drones and I think different kinds of rockets. Now it seems much closer. I see reports from 180. Usually, I think that's the U.S. Department number is 180. IDF is saying 200. So, and I see different medias reporting different numbers based on if they take the IDF or the U.S. Department. So it's between that 180 to 200 missiles ordered directly by Khomeini, who stayed in a secure location, obviously. Afraid as he should be. But hopefully he won't be afraid for that much longer.
Well, he
As I've
deserves
said,
precisely the same fate as his chief agent in Lebanon, Mr. Nasrallah. He deserves precisely the same fate. And I hope Israel can deliver it.
and as I've said, it's still just reported one death, one Palestinian in Jericho, who is actually from Gaza and has been working in Israel. So it looks like still that's the one that I saw a video that's apparently supposed to be him. It also has a timestamp which seems to match. And honestly, that look absolutely terrible. Basically, I don't even want to show it here, but what has happened is it was either like it could have been a water silo or a rocket shell basically, but he was like standing, he started walking in a certain direction and it like fell on him, and it was almost inhuman the way he moved afterwards, and obviously instantly killed from such a thing, but really unfortunate to see, especially because it it literally, the way it happened, he literally had to, because he was standing next to like a post, he literally had to pick a certain direction, walk about four steps, and it fell like exactly on him. So really unfortunate, unfortunate to hear something like that. But again, that's obviously on Iran, and even if this hasn't happened, obviously the threat of force is still force, and there needs to be a response, even if no one was injured, even if no one was killed. The intention was obviously to indiscriminately kill yeah, incredible amount of Jews. I've read somewhere that apparently 99% of the rockets were intercepted. I'm not sure how much that is true, but it might be. And just wanted to also point out, U.S. has also helped in has coordinated with the IDF to shoot down as many rockets as possible.
But listen to the way that the American policy people talked about it today. I mean, they said, "Oh, how wonderful! See how committed we are. See how effective this is. See how this is so sufficient a response. Defending from these repeated attacks is a sufficient response." No, it is not a sufficient response. When someone keeps attacking you and attacking you and attacking you, and this time with between 180 and 200 precision ballistic missiles, including perhaps one of these hypersonic missiles, which Iran says they used. You are not acting in self-defense until you take it to the enemy, until you incapacitate the enemy, until you punch the enemy in the face, as I say. It is inadequate self-defense. It is irresponsible self-defense to say that you've won something or completed something because you've stopped most of those missiles. As I say, there are still craters in Israel because of the attack today. No, escalation by Israel is a good thing. Escalation by Israel is a good thing. Escalation by Iran, which was this missile attack, is a bad thing. Now, in terms of the politics, it provides Israel some cover and excuse. Well, that's nonsense in the first place. Back in April, Israel had a right to take out the government of Iran after that first attack. You see, there's this bizarre intrinsicist anti-war idea that any attack by anybody, or any violence, a gun gets fired and it's intrinsically wrong. No, no. There is a fundamental moral difference between the person who's aggressively shooting the gun first and the person who's firing back in self-defense. There is a fundamental moral difference, and the West does not understand that. It blurs that. It wipes out that distinction every time it opens its mouth. Policymakers at my State Department and my Defense Department open their mouth and they say how this is such a great victory that they blocked the blows. Every time they say that, they sanction more aggression. And they signal to the aggressors that, look, we regard any real force that Israel might use or America might use as equally wrong to whatever aggressive force you guys use. Well, that is fundamentally wrong. The violence that the Allies waged against the Nazis during World War II was good, heroic, noble, moral. Everything that made Nazi aggression that started World War II wrong made British and American responsive force moral, good, and heroic. Similarly here, every escalation that Israel engages in Lebanon, and hopefully directly against Iran soon, is good, noble, heroic, in defense of civilization. And Israel is doing it all for us here in the West as well, ladies and gentlemen. British and American, the British and American population should realize that Israel is taking it for us right now. And if Iran didn't have to go through Israel, they'd have no problem coming straight to Western Europe and America, because that's who they really hate and want to get to.
Yeah, so Israel has vowed a powerful, I think the specific word was powerful airstrikes through Middle East after the Iranian missile attack, not specifying against Iran, just saying in the Middle East. But we've already seen, for example, from Galant that there will definitely be a heavy price that Iran will have to pay. So something I'm already a bit worried since it has been 4 hours and there is still nothing. Because when it comes to Israel, you have to always remember Israeli intelligence is one of the greatest things ever. There's just a report just came out that the head of Iranian intelligence agency meant to basically target Mossad has been headed by a Mossad agent, as well as in the intelligence agency itself, there were about 20 Mossad agents in the actual intelligence agency. So that's incredible. And what we've seen with Hezbollah also means that Israel is not usually doing things. When there was a cabinet meeting, it wasn't like, okay, we want to attack Iran, but what are we gonna do? No, I have to hope. I really cannot think Israel would be so ignorant. There already has to be a plan for Iran. There already have to be things made up, basically knowing exactly where the rocket silos are, knowing exactly where the different military locations are, where the possibly even the nuclear stuff when it comes to nuclear research. Although I've seen big problem with that is Iran puts it in like underground and behind mountains, which is it's hard to go through mountains usually, as well as Iran itself is a heavily mountainous region. So while we might not see that, Israel has to have some plans. And when I wake up tomorrow, there better be something. There has to be something. I think
Daniel,
you cannot wait a day.
Daniel, on October 7th, I was in my own mind thinking, well, by the 9th or 10th, Gaza City will be totally in rubble.
Well,
right?
quickly on that, apparently Israel didn't have a plan for Gaza. From the reports I've seen, Israel didn't really have the same plans they have for Hezbollah. That's that's I mean, that's not the main reason I think we've seen the difference.
Oh,
It's
and there's a
also
reason that makes sense. I mean, you can see the
yeah, but it's also
well.
Hamas has been much more embedded in the civilian population, and Israel has been much more hesitant to strike between Gaza, which we haven't really seen
That's
with
the thing. It's their
and
approach to Gaza and Hamas that was wrong and wrong-headed. But you can understand the greater threat was, objectively from those missiles that Hezbollah has. Um, but they also have plans. Of course, they've gamed it out with Iran. They've gamed it out any number of scenarios. That's what sophisticated military operations do. I'm sure America has plans. Those will collect dust before we ever use them. But Israel, of course, has plans. And it would be great if we would wake up tomorrow morning and see a devastating attack. And look, if what you said is true and what the reports are true, the head of Iranian intelligence is a Mossad operative. I hope the hell they got him out of there if before this was known to Iran, because obviously he would be toast. But in any case, when we see the magnificent behavior, the performance of Israel in terms of the things like the pager attack, the walkie-talkie attack, just the precision nature. For example, taking out Hania, the Hamas leader, while he was in Tehran. I mean, just astonishing stuff. Mossad is the most incredible intelligence agency I've ever heard of. So, do they probably have a good idea where the nuclear facilities in Iran are? I imagine they at least have some idea. I imagine they have some idea of how to get at them. I imagine they have some idea of where the Iranian leaders are, even if they are like Mr. Nasrallah in Beirut was in some kind of underground facility. But that didn't save Nasrallah, did it? And so hopefully Israel can do something very, very effective, very, very soon. But if history is anything, they will do it in their own time when they're ready. And to some part of me says, well, if it's going to be devastatingly effective, okay, but you know that the West gives you a very, the Washington right now is saying, Biden, as we were saying, was very, 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 fully, that was it, supportive of, well, that's going to last how many days? That's the thing that Israel has to worry about. You don't have that much time given the world's support and permit. Let's put it this way: you're going to get all that pressure put back on you by Washington the minute. It's the same kind of ceasefire pressure you got after the pager attack. How long will it last? America's saying, okay, we'll support what you do in Lebanon and even something against Iran. How long will that last? They need to move for political reasons as much as for military reasons. That's the way I'd put it.
So, just quickly, just to clarify something. So, when a U.S. president gets elected, or rather wins the election, he isn't officially a president until January 6th, when you have the vote certification.
No.
Right?
The Congress takes the new Congress will take power on January 6th. The new president changes hands on noon on the 20th day of January.
Okay. So basically, Biden is a president until then, basically.
Until January 20th. Now,
yeah,
effectively, of course, he's not much to. I mean, he still can do things. He'll still be in power. He's still in charge of the military until January 20th. But effectively, as a leader, he's this is the moment when we really call them lame ducks, especially if there's a power change. If Harris gets reelected, it's a little different than if Trump gets replaces him, because then there'd be a whole new party in power and a whole new policy that everyone's expecting.
Right. So, yeah, I was just wondering, but it really, Israel has to act. Normally, if world was a better place, I'd say, if Israel thinks it can get a better advantage by waiting a bit, or like strategically, I mean, if it could gain something better preparation, gain more information, I'd say yes. But the way it is right now is yes. When you are attacked, you have a small window where it's sort of accepted, and because of and I hate saying the fact that the attack was mild, because again, buildings were hit, people were injured, someone was killed. So again, really don't want to put it down. But the
But for the
way,
aero defense system, people would have died. Thousands would have died. But for the most sophisticated missile defense system in the world. This aero defense system is the best in the world. And if it weren't for that, thousands of Israeli civilians might have died today.
yeah.
I'm
So
not
I don't
exaggerating.
wanna put it down. But the way people are reacting, even from the people, you'd usually see them be silent for a little bit until they start criticizing Israel. Here, it wasn't really there. People are already on Israel. People are already saying, "Well, what did you expect? You killed Haniya. What did you expect?" I was joking, that this is a response for killing of Soleimani. The when was even that, 3 or 4 years ago,
When
when they
Trump
killed.
was president,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
They had
S-
a long list of things that they haven't to notice. When Hanea got killed in Tehran, they vowed vengeance. Nothing happened. The Israelis do the walkie-talkie. Okay, Israel's going to get it, and finally Nasrallah gets it. Okay, now you're going to get it. So when Iran finally does lob between 180 and 200 ballistic missiles at Israel, we've got a long list of things, but that actually shows you how back on their heels Iran has become. They really have. This is the moment to strike. This is the moment to strike, and do it before a new administration really does take power, Israel, and it would really put you on a shorter leash and give you all kinds of grief, even in the UN Security Council.
yeah.
It's
So I've seen
of it, but
I've seen a reporting of one mainstream media, and I couldn't find it. So maybe they changed the article, or change the title of the article. But I've seen something like, paraphrasing, Iran retaliates for the killing of Ismail Haniyeh. And yeah, the putting on like this narrative, one, a dictatorship doesn't have any sort of like retaliation, doesn't have any, like, nothing is if you
moral
are
right
a dictatorship,
mentality.
if you oppress your own people, you have the only reason why a nation, not I don't like the has a right to defend itself or has a right to invade another nation. The only reason a nation as it is can invade other nation, and it can be okay, is because they are defending the rights of their citizens. If a nation doesn't respect the rights of their own citizens, they have no justification for anything. They have no justification, because that's the only claim you can have to wage war, is you are defending the rights of individuals in your nations.
That's it. They have lost any superficial. What they are is just a bunch of gangsters, a criminal gang of thugs controlling the country. A dictatorship is a state of war of the government in power against its own people. A dictatorship is, of course, the cause of war. Dictatorships are the cause of war. If Israel had its way, there would be no wars. There would be peace. If Israel had its way, there would be peace, because they are not a dictatorship. If Iran had its way, they would wipe out 8 million Jews in Israel tomorrow.
I mean, from what we've seen, they would wipe out Israelis. And we've seen that again and again.
Oh,
It's
and
not
Brits
just
and
about Jews.
Americans might get a chance. Yeah.
Even aligning yourself with Israel, even being
Oh, no.
Israeli.
Well, that's
When
it.
when there were Arabs prisoners of Hamas, and I think that was uh, one of the hostages that I believe we've rescued, or the IDF has rescued, has said that he tried, or not he tried, but he wanted to see if he would get a preferential treatment as an Arab, when it comes to releasing him sooner or anything like that. No, you are still Israeli, was the response he got.
Really.
You are Israeli, and that's what makes you evil.
Iran attacked the West
Associating
Bank.
yourself with Jews.
Iran attacked the West Bank. The only person who died in the missile attack from Iran today was a Palestinian. Now get that. They flooded the whole area, not just Israel, basically the whole of Israel with aimed strikes, but the whole of Samaria and Judea as well. And as a result, a Palestinian gets killed. Now that, yeah, they don't care if it's a Muslim or a Jew. Oh yeah, but their real intent though would be to kill every Jew in the area, every Israeli in the area, every Zionist in the area. And when they were done with that, believe me, they would come after Brits and Americans next. Yes.
Someone in the chat says, "What a lie! Muslims and Jews lived peacefully for over 1,000 years before the creation of Israel." Yes, the Umayyad Caliphate was peacefully marching through and just converting people peacefully through North Africa, through Spain, through.
Such a garden party for Jews living in Yemen or Egypt or Syria, wasn't it? Wasn't it such a lovely time? You know, Jews have been so well treated when there have been minorities in either Muslim or Christian countries for the last 200 years. Now, I want you to review the bidding there. Really, are you that ignorant of how horribly the Jewish minority has been treated in either Christian or Muslim countries over the last century or two? That's obscene. They've been ghettoized, discriminated against, murdered, raped, had their civil rights taken away, and of course, there was a Holocaust. No, I don't want to hear it. It was hellish often just to be Jewish in Muslim countries over the last century or two. That is why Israel was so important to create, so that they weren't raped, killed, beaten up, ghettoized, so that they had a place to go. And so many Israelis today are migrants, not only from Europe, of course, they fled Central Europe after the Holocaust, places like Poland and Germany, obviously, but also from Arab countries, Morocco, Yemen, Egypt, Syria. Yeah, and life was not a fun thing very frequently for Jews as a minority population in either Muslim or Christian countries over the last century or two.
So just to quickly go through the super chat, and thank you for all of them. We have Tragedy and Comedy saying Razi finally had the time for a haircut in the bunker. Stay strong, buddy. So the law of being a commentator is whenever you travel, something happens. So Razi's traveling, so Iran had to attack Israel. It's just the way it is. We also have a super chat from Bonnie, or rather a super sticker. Thank you so much. Super chat from Wes. Thank you so much. He says, another opportunity to support you all. Great work as always. Thank you so much. And super chat from Frank, who says, can Ukraine do to Putin what Israel did to Hassan Nasrallah? So I think there was one event where there was a Ukrainian drone in Moscow, but we haven't really seen anything since. Well, one thing also is, would that really help it? Because again, you have to Russia, while when it comes to countries like that, especially the one that is actively in war against you, the chaos that would be creating from killing Putin, I don't think it's automatic that it would be a better situation. So I mean, morally, absolutely kill him. So I think it's only practical question. And if it is capable, from what maybe with a good amount of luck, maybe. But I think intelligence plays the biggest role when it comes to these things. And I don't think how much Ukraine has intelligence, especially on like Putin's movement and all that.
Yeah, I don't think that Ukraine has the equivalent of the Mossad with its awesome capacities. More than that, the way to end the look, as Daniel points out, there is no prospect, whether Putin is in power or not, for a regime that is really significantly better in Russia. But if we want to bring down the regime, Putin's whole regime and government, there's no better way than to make sure that Russia loses that war. Losing that war would be the greatest internal crisis for him staying in power that he could face. And right now, what a glorious thing. I mean, the Russian territory is being actually invaded and occupied by Ukrainians. And we're seeing no nuclear reaction from Russia, although they keep rattling those nuclear sabers. So I agree with you. It would be lovely if the Putin regime could be taken out But the important thing is to push Russia out of Ukraine right now and make sure they lose that war. And that, I think, might well have the effect of, from within Russia, taking out his regime.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole episode, and we did one on when it came to Russia. We did when the Kursk invasion happened, and one actual benefit of the Kursk invasion is when you sort of break through the lines. One thing you can do, or one benefit you have, you can also send a lot of operatives into the nation itself. So while it might not have the incredible agents network that Mossad has, it definitely has operatives in Russia, and as I've said, somehow one drone got to Moscow. Somehow it was there. So again, with some luck, it might happen. And it would be a great day. We would pop a champagne. We would see what the aftermath would be. But similarly, when Khomeini gets killed, how much do we give him? I think the Mossad Youssef, the son, the famous son of Hamas, has actually put before Nasrallah got killed, he actually put an invite on X. Basically, if anybody can guess the day Nasrallah dies, he will give them like a signed copy of his book, $7,000 or something like that. And I'm not sure if anyone won. But if he did, I'm sure he's happy. And yeah, I think at this time it's just a matter of time. No bunker is deep enough to hide from Israel. That's what we've seen so far. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this. According to reports, and this is what Razi sent me, Israel will strike nuclear or oil facilities. And one thing I've seen, apparently, like 95% of Iranian exports are coming out of one island, pretty small. So
What I don't like there, though, I don't like the fact that Israel is telling Iran where it's going to strike.
so
Because they're going to
yeah.
move their stuff around, move their experts around, and it'll have less of an impact, is what I fear. But good. The idea of them going after all the Iranian nuclear facilities and oil facilities is a great thing. It really is. That's what ought to happen. But I'd rather not hear about it before it does.
Yeah, I mean, but there is also such a thing as overwhelming with information. We might strike oil fields or nuclear facilities or weapon facilities, or we might just strike Khomeini. I don't
Right.
know. I'll see how I feel.
All of the above. My preference. I'm going to be a glutton and choose everything on the menu. Yeah, my preference would be all of the above.
Uh, all right. Anything else we have? We are going. Sorry, I got a bit distracted because someone said no one mentions when what Ukrainian forces did to the Hungarian and Slovak minorities on their western border. I didn't even know there were Slovak minorities living in Ukraine, but I guess it might be because for a while a part of current Ukraine used to be a part of Czechoslovakia, but it was like 80 years ago. So it was
Yeah, that was a little while
long time
ago.
ago.
That was a little while ago, and nobody is claiming that Ukraine is a perfect place or even as good as Israel is, but they were invaded by a dictatorship, an aggressive dictatorship. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the thing. Who is the aggressor is the key point here. I mean, if it truly were one totalitarian state versus another, say Hitler versus Stalin, you're right. I would have a big yawn and enjoy watching them fight it out, in effect. But that's not the case with Ukraine. We're looking at a much worse country invading a comparatively weaker, smaller country. That aggression needs to be stopped, ladies and gentlemen, or it's a threat to the world. It's that simple.
It's not even that much about weaker, as well as it's.
Well,
it is comparatively
justification.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the point is, it does observe, though, that the threat that Russia is, that's the part of that saying that makes sense. Russia is a huge threat to Europe, a threat to Asia, a threat to America. And it's a dictatorship, an aggressive dictatorship that has shown it is a threat to Europe and America. And that's
Yeah, and
efficient.
also I don't even think it's that much about what the country is, but what's much more important oftentimes is what the country wants to be, and what has both the 2014 invasion and the 2022 invasion. It was about Ukraine wanted to join EU, and that's what when Crimea happened. Ukraine wanted to align themselves more with the West instead of Russia, because you have to remember until so it was here and there, but for a long time after the fall of the Soviet Union, Ukraine was very much Russia aligned. Had
And Ukraine was, and to have gotten into the European Union, or to have gotten into the NATO alliance, Ukraine would have had to clean its house up, get itself better into order, and would have had to have met certain requirements of belonging to the League of Civilized Nations. And so, and you think about that in contrast, like to the United Nations and how evil that organization is. But at least with NATO, we have certain requirements before we let someone into NATO. What the hell Turkey's doing in NATO anymore, I do not know. But just to get into, isn't that pathetic, would make Ukraine absolutely jump through hoops to get in, as we ought to some extent. But if that's true, then what the hell is, as I say, is Turkey still doing in NATO? In any case, to have joined the EU or to have joined the NATO alliance, which was supposed to have been the great threat that Russia was responding to, oh my goodness, we can't have Ukraine joining NATO or the EU. That's a threat to us and Russia. That was the excuse. But that also shows how much better Ukraine is. Russia wasn't about to lay down its arms and make an economic alliance with the EU or join NATO. They were the object of NATO's fear. The reason there is a NATO, Russia.
I'm just reading. Kamala Harris has made a statement, so I'm just going through it. But it's pretty much empty. I defend Israel, whatever, but nothing. Wait,
Yada, yada,
yeah.
yada.
Oh, no, it's only I will always ensure that Israel has the ability to defend itself against Iran and
The
its
ability
proxies.
to defend itself.
Yeah.
Now, the minute they do it, I will denounce them as genocidal monsters. Yeah, no, she is talking what the talk she thinks it'll take to get reelected or to get elected in a month from now. I don't believe a single word coming out of her mouth, especially with regard to Israel right now.
Yeah, and I also see some more reports. Also, Netanyahu says Iran made a big mistake with missiles attack and will pay for it. But I was just going through the like the I don't know how you call it in America, sort of like the coming news, or sort of like every minute news, when you just everything just
Breaking news, right?
yeah, breaking news, sort of like a segment. And I
Headline.
saw Israel strikes, but it was Israel strike Gaza, which is also good. But I'd like to see something when it comes to Iran. So we'll see. Again, so one thing, we might do another show if the actual attack happens. But we will be definitely back for tomorrow. So we will be covering whatever happened in the meantime. There is also, for those interested, there's the upcoming debate, the vice president debate, American, between Tim Walz and JD Vance. I don't know how they do these debates, if they have like prepared and sealed questions like ahead of time, or if they can adapt them. I imagine Iran and this will be a big part of it, and I'm interested to see. I'm interested to see what will happen, because obviously the Trump side should be more Israeli, but JD Vance has been historically very isolationist, while Tim Walz is supposedly pro-Israeli, but also again he's candidating with Kamala Harris. So I'm really interested to see who will be like, who will try to appear more pro-Israeli in this instance.
Yes, the true selves are going to be masked by the need to defend their lead, the candidate they're supporting. So anything you might have thought J.D. Vance would independently have said about Israel, against Israel probably, or anything you might think Governor Walz would say maybe for Israel, is going to be sublimated by the needs of the head of the ticket there, Trump's position, which is much more pro-Israel, or Harris's position for Governor Walz, which is much more in the pro-Hamas squad section of things.
As I've said earlier, before the show, I haven't seen any of the four really commenting on the situation, either Biden or Trump, nor
It will be
Tim
discussed
Walz.
tonight, no doubt.
I've only seen, and obviously they are discussing the current situation in southern parts of America, which is to be expected. But I think we went for an hour. I think it's a good hour. So hopefully we'll see some response coming out of someone said we should have balanced view on your channel, get a Palestine supporter on your show. There is such a thing as too much. I think a balance. I don't think you can have a balanced conversation between civilization and savagery when one side inherently is against complete existence of Israel. Yeah, there's no discussion to be had. The only sort of other side we could have here is someone supporting two-state solution. That's as far as sort of like two sides could go. Someone who
we discuss Owen Jones all the time. We discuss.
Yeah, but we don't invite him. That's his problem.
Oh no, we don't. But we go over their comments. No, look, folks. We get if you want balance, if you want the side of evil, go check out the main media in the United States and Great Britain. All you have to do is look at CNN and the New York Times or the BBC and the Guardian. No. They've got that side, the false side covered. So if you want balance with falsehood and evil, you can go check them out. We're here to respond to that. And don't worry, we pay attention to those folks and we respond in detail to them.
And with that, thank you, James, for joining me today. Thank you also, Razi, earlier, who has joined us earlier and also is in the chat. Razi is also a member of Ayn Rand Center UK YouTube channel, so you can also become one to get access to various perks, as well as you can become a website on ARCUK. You can become a member, on an ARCUK website. It's after midnight. I'm a bit tired, and I also didn't sleep that much.
You put in an amazing day, Daniel. Thank you.
And with that, thank you everyone for joining us today. We'll be back tomorrow. Thank you, James, for joining me, and bye-bye.
Be safe.